Awesome. I guess we're started. Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Eric Rotze from Pactum AI. Welcome to our 30-minute webinar, Cost Takeout Using AI Negotiations on Working Capital. So we'll be talking about AI strategies for cost takeout and working capital optimization. We have industry experts that are leveraging Pactum's technology joining us today. And on the next slide, you'll see Simon Rockcliffe. He's a partner at EY Partner in Canada. We have Sandeep Bajaj, partner at EY Canada. And they both will be starting our webinar talking about the trends and methodology. And then Dan Tunnicliffe, our global solutions consulting lead, will be following up with a demo. A quick housekeeping note, please post your questions through the Q&A. We have planned some time towards the end of the webinar to answer your questions. And also, we are offering a free value assessment to qualifying companies. So you can go to pactum.com and send a request through the Pactum's website, contact us form, and we will get in touch with you how you can also benefit from this technology. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Simon to start.
Brilliant. Thank you, Eric. Hello, everyone. To start, we wanted to share some highlights of financial performance across North America related to the topic we're going to be talking about today. And this is over 2,000 companies in North America, with the results over the last 2 years from the most latest posted financial results. Starting with cash conversion, one key observation that we have is the increase in cash conversion cycles, which have increased 6%. And we see underlying metrics showing similar trends across the board, with day sales outstanding increasing 4%, which is correlated with increasing payment cycles around 5%, suggesting that payment increases and collection delays are aligned. We do see the biggest increase in days inventory at around 7%, which is therefore amplifying kind of cash conversion cycle for more capital-intensive companies. Interestingly, we see similar increases around 10 days for both large and small organizations, but with much different baselines, with average cash conversion cycle for small companies nearly double that of larger companies. The increase in cash conversion is manifesting itself in around $200 billion more of working capital increases on the balance sheet. And the impact of that with the increased working capital and the burn rate of cash is we're seeing the average increase in net debt of around 21%, and interest costs following that average increase is around 23%. And this is even higher for companies less than $1 billion of sales, which the average is around 30%. And to complete the free cash flow picture, when we look at margins, we see a similar impact. And although overall margin rate across the population of companies had increased, when digging into the data, we actually found that companies in that over $1 billion sales mark to actually be flat to declining, whereas actually small companies who had the largest increase, but on a much lower base. And overall, this is telling us that there is financial pressures for all companies, but possibly more impactful for smaller companies. Larger companies have stagnated on margin and may be more amenable to trading cheaper or available capital for more margin or cost reduction. But this does vary by sector. It does vary by companies. Some of the strategies we'll talk about today are going to be aligned to your specific circumstances. As we move on and think about supplier negotiation strategy, it's important to balance both companies' financial objectives with the consideration of the supplier's situation and preferences. We consider 3 types of strategies overall. A margin-focused strategy will look to optimize negotiated price, possibly in return for accelerated payment. When done correctly, this can deliver incremental cost reduction through deploying unworked capital. A working capital-focused strategy will focus more on payment terms extension. Higher payment terms can generate a rapid and impactful one-time cash inflow. Also, extended terms can also grant the opportunity to exchange for larger discounts later on, and that should always be something that's considered. Where we see most companies operate, though, is in the middle, the hybrid focus, a hybrid strategy that looks to balance both working capital and margin-related targets. And this can be challenging and often have bias, which can lead to suboptimal results. An interesting consideration often overlooked, though, is the total cash impact. So one statistic we often like to use is a break-even point or payback period of trading cash discounts for a reduction in payment terms can often be 4 to 7 years. For example, a one-time cash outflow from reducing payment terms by 30 days would take 4 years to recoup 2% invoice discounts on a net cash basis. So thinking closely about the complete cash flow impact of negotiations in a hybrid strategy is always going to be important. And I'm going to turn to my colleague Sandeep now, who's going to discuss some of those enablers for improvement.
Thank you, Simon. So in terms of the overall procurement cycle, we are seeing generative AI and machine learning applications really starting to transform the end-to-end procurement process, both to increase speed as well as find new areas of value. So as shown on the slide, here are some examples that cover the spectrum across the procurement cycle, from opportunity identification, execution, through supplier monitoring. So just to highlight a few examples, so you can see sort of the range of maturity and applications and what they do. Starting on the left side, an example is automated opportunity identification. So we are seeing applications that can look at market data to help optimize timing for sourcing and negotiations. One particular area of development, which we're going to focus on today, is in the area of negotiations, which is really at the heart of what procurement does. And this is where the Pactum AI tool comes in, providing what we call an autonomous supplier negotiation capability. So based on a customized negotiation strategy for the buying organization, we can configure and deploy an AI chatbot to autonomously negotiate with suppliers, yielding better deals for targeted spend and suppliers. And what we found, this is actually a very practical way, even though we're looking at new technology here, it's a very practical way to generate capacity in areas of spend that may not be a strategic priority. And finally, on the right side, an example is supplier risk monitoring using large data models. With machine learning, we can use large data sets to review supply chain risks further down in the supply chain, down to what we call multiple tiers, to identify unforeseen risks that may impact critical areas of supply. An example of an application in this area is actually EY's Breda tool, which is currently being used by clients. So just to give you a few key takeaways as we go into this slide, there's varying maturity of AI applications that are available for deployment. Pactum AI is actually one tool that is enterprise ready for deployment. And although there's no single platform that currently covers the end-to-end process, there's some synergy in deploying tools as part of a more holistic procurement solution looking at the end-to-end. So on this slide, I wanted to highlight, ahead of the innovative demo we're going to give you on AI negotiations, several value creation accelerators and tools that work nicely together with AI negotiations to yield more value, achieve scale, and really preventing bottlenecks in the process. So on the left side, in terms of opportunity identification, it's really understanding your supplier segmentation and procurement and spend management to align on the best way to address what would be a good use case for Pactum. So, that could be spend that's typically not being addressed by strategic sourcing. In the middle, where we talk about AI negotiations, this would be a tailored solution to the company's strategy, meeting multiple objectives, as Simon referenced, such as working capital and margin together, so you get to the best outcome. And it can also be tailored to that supplier segmentation, so it can be very unique to a segment of suppliers. And finally, on the right side, to prevent bottlenecks, it's very useful to have a tool around an automated contract repository update. And just to give you an example of where we're deploying this together, we're currently working with a consumer products manufacturer using EY supply chain intelligence platform with Pactum AI. And in that case study, we've identified a sourcing and category management plan for approximately 80% of the total spend. And Pactum has proved useful in that savings plan. We're planning to deploy it in approximately 20% of that spend, allowing this company to increase its total savings from up to approximately 10% more than it would otherwise be able to do so without AI negotiations. And we're able to scale this to hundreds of negotiations in a short period of time, less than 6 months. So with that introduction, I wanted to turn it over to Dan from the Pactum team to talk more about AI negotiations. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Sandeep, and thank you, Simon. So a couple of the challenges that you've heard from Sandeep and Simon today have been around the difficulty of balancing the different negotiation strategies that you may have and the potential biases that come with that, as well as the scale to take advantage of things like the working capital opportunities that are potentially out there for organizations. It's very difficult to do with the team and the capacity that you have available today. And that's where we come in with Pactum and with what we call autonomous negotiation. Briefly, what is autonomous negotiation? Well, it's negotiating directly with your suppliers via an autonomous agent. More simply put, maybe sometimes as a chatbot. But we negotiate with suppliers at all levels, whether that be for a one-off purchase request, through negotiations that can happen after sourcing events, to contracts and contract renewals, right the way up to, as we'll discuss today, more holistic supplier terms looking to free up working capital, for example. Now, the way that we do it is so structured that we are able to extract a hell of a lot of data, which then enables Pactum as a bot to continuously learn and make every negotiation smarter. So we're continuously enhancing the ability of our customers to negotiate through Pactum, and also in doing so, understanding better how to deal with suppliers and how to deal with humans to get more out of it for both parties. One of the key fundamental principles of a negotiation is that two people walk into a room together and both people leave with more. And we take that forward with Pactum in this the way that we negotiate to try and make sure not only that we're getting more for our clients, but in doing so, we're enabling more for our client suppliers as well. And wherever possible, we do this by extending customer platforms, sitting as part of current systems and processes to try and run wherever we can entirely autonomously without the need for additional human interaction. Now, we do it across a number of different scenarios under two kind of broad pillars. I'll start on the left here to explain the procurement sphere of what we do. And that's what I briefly referenced a moment ago, which is that anywhere in procurement that a negotiation can happen, Pactum can support. So, for example, with purchase requests or PRs or requisitions, however you phrase them, if one of those is off contract, is unnegotiated, is a one-off requirement, often they can go unnegotiated, particularly as Sandeep was referring to in the tail end of spend. And so there, Pactum can reach in and negotiate those one-off outcomes to get better value without the need to extend your teams. Further, as you then move into sourcing events and get a little more sophisticated, it's common within procurement teams that we have to run a lot of sourcing activity, but are unable to negotiate all of those. So end up either taking RFP prices, RFQ prices, or not maximizing the available terms. There may be opportunity left on the table where you could, just as a simple example, offer shorter payment terms to take a bigger discount or reduce a warranty requirement that you aren't able to take advantage of because of the capacity limitations. Pactum's able to negotiate after sourcing events to extract the maximum value there. And then in contracts and contract negotiations, when it's coming up for renewal, it's very common that whether it be in indirect or direct procurement, there's a huge number of contracts that end up getting renewed without any real pressure or any real challenge to the renewal terms, which again aren't maximizing the potential output. But where we're going to focus today is what we call campaigns, or sometimes you'll hear us say supplier campaigns. That's the ability to reach out en masse to commonly thousands of suppliers with a similar goal in mind. So think, for example, as we'll show today, the goal to extend payment terms and introduce a rebate to the vast majority of your supplier base. Previously, you've likely only had the ability to negotiate those sorts of terms with the real strategic top sort of 5 or 10% of suppliers, and the rest go somewhat untouched or touched ad hoc. Here, what we can do with Pactum, as you'll see in a moment, is we can reach out to all of your supplier base with the same goal in mind, but then have an individual negotiation with each supplier to maximize the output of the particular relationship and what's important to that supplier. Now, the way it works is that through an implementation supported by colleagues like EY, we'll set about a strategy as to what you want to achieve and understand as Pactum and be able to kind of teach the bot, if you will, how we can or what terms we can agree to. So what payment terms are allowable, what early payment discounts are allowable, what increments of discount do you want to look at, what other terms are available. Let's say in the example, you'll see rebates, and what percentage of increment of rebate can we discuss. With that in mind, plus other elements into the strategy, we then take an input of say all of your suppliers or a large portion of your supplier base to a very simple load and launch the negotiations. What that does then is it triggers an email into the supplier, and the supplier contact explains the context of why we would like to discuss the terms, which we would define and align with the client individually, because everyone's, as Simon referenced, everyone's perspective is different.
Thank you so much, Dan. So we have about 5 minutes to cover some of the questions that we have received so far. The first question that we're going to start with is, how long is the implementation process or timeline for Pactum to get fully integrated into the procurement function to cover requests, sourcing, and contracts? Perhaps, Dan, would you like to take this question first?
Yeah, absolutely. There's two parts to the answer to that. One is the technical integration, and the other part is the change management integration, I guess. So from a technical standpoint, assuming it's a kind of modern P2P platform, a Coupa, Ariba, Evalua type solution, normally we're looking at around 4 to 6 weeks to be integrated and implemented into those solutions. That includes the setup of the negotiations, the strategies, the remits, as well as the technical integration. What we often see with customers, though, is that autonomous negotiations is a new journey. And so there's steps through the process that we go through. So as opposed to immediately implementing and autonomously negotiating everything, we see customers get comfortable normally at a sort of first tier of intelligence around the request level, and then stepping up as we go through those negotiations. So it can take several, sort of a few months, 6 months or so, to get fully embedded, maybe even slightly longer depending on the size.
Yeah. Sandeep, would you like to add anything or from your experience so far?
Yeah, I think there's on the campaigns we've seen, and it kind of relates to one of the other questions there that we're going to cover. There is a lot of quick win potential, which can then demonstrate the business case to fully embed it into the broader if you have a digital procurement platform. So we are seeing some companies that choose to do a campaign first, do a pilot, demonstrate the value, and the practical value of this tool is it can show the value pretty quickly and see how it would work in a client's environment. So I think that can be done a little faster.
Awesome. So the next question is, do Pactum clients typically engage directly with Pactum or through a sourcing partner like EY? That's perhaps also a good question for Sandeep to answer.
Yeah, we're definitely excited to partner with Pactum in the digital procurement space, value creation. We're seeing some good synergy with value creation programs and companies that are looking to embed this capability, find new value. So yeah, we are finding opportunities to partner together, and companies that maybe are new to AI applications or new to this type of journey. We're happy to help and get you along the journey until you're self-sufficient.
And I think it links a little back to the first question as well. If depending on the breadth we want to go with the autonomous negotiation journey, it's often great to have Simon and Sandeep and Jaden and the team on board to help map out, and then march through that journey together. Because the change management, as always with any technology, right, is half the battle at least.
Awesome. And another question is about, can you give an example how EY has leveraged Pactum in a client environment? And I think the question also tries to get about, what have been the results there?
Yeah, I can take that. So I think we referenced one case study we're doing right now for a consumer products company. So we were able to deploy the Pactum tool along with our opportunity identification platform, Skip. And we were able to identify a pilot within, I'd say, less than 8 weeks and successfully complete that. We were getting fairly high conversion rate, above 60% of about 100 negotiations completed were successful. And right now we have a savings plan that's actually boosting the overall sourcing category management plan for this company by 10%, just based on the volume of spend we can get through the Pactum tool. The other advantage of this autonomous negotiation capability that we're seeing with clients is that it can scale very quickly after a pilot to hundreds of negotiations. So yeah, we are seeing some real value on the ground in current deployments.
Awesome. So we are unfortunately running out of time. We have about 30 seconds to wrap this up. So thank you everyone so much for taking some time out of your day to join this webinar and hear from our speakers. We will be also sharing the recording with you, so you can rewatch it yourself or share it with any of your colleagues or friends who perhaps were not able to join us today. And also, again, when you go to pactum.com, you can use the contact us form to submit the request. We will get in touch with you, and we can also provide you a free value assessment to see how much you can save by using our technology to improve your working capital and payment terms. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.